to call the regular meeting of the board for April 16th, 2024 to order. Welcome to our guests. I'd first like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional land of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which is represented by the communities of Saugeen First Nation and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We also think of the Métis Nation of Ontario, whose history and people are well represented in Bruce and Grey County. We have two trustees joining us electronically tonight, Trustee Long and Trustee Morgan. And we may have Trustee Ritchie join us, but she was having difficulty with her technology, so she may have sent her regrets. We will see. For the moment of reflection, I would like to begin by recognizing this is National Volunteer Week. As trustees, we are all acutely aware of the many dedicated volunteers who make an immeasurable difference within our respective school communities. We extend our thanks and appreciation to them for their efforts, which come in numerous forms, to promote student achievement and well-being. In our schools, spring is the season for skilled trades, science, and public speaking. Some of our students who attended last month's Regional Technological Skills Challenge have been working toward the Skills Ontario competition in May. These past few weeks have also seen the return of the Blue Water Regional Science and Technology Fair for senior and junior students. There were plenty of gold, silver, and bronze medals handed out to our students at the two events. As a result, our board will once again have student representation at the Canada-wide Science Fair in Ottawa later next week. We also had many of our elementary and secondary schools represented at our recent concours French public speaking contest here at the board office. We wish the best of luck to the group of secondary students who have advanced to the provincial finals in Toronto in a few weeks. I would also like to dedicate this month's moment of reflection to our students who have been involved in all these different events, regardless of how they ranked or any awards being given out. They are all to be commended and congratulated for their hard work, dedication, perseverance, and amazing achievements. During National Volunteer Week, it also makes sense to extend our thoughts and thanks to the coaches and staff who donated time outside their regular hours, community partners, family members, and others who were instrumental in our students' participation and success in these and other events. And I just look up and see that Trustee McComb is not yet returned, but we do expect her to join us this evening. First, we'll be looking for the approval of the agenda, that the agenda for the regular meeting of the board of April 16th, 2024 be approved as printed. Could I have a mover? Trustee Morgan, seconded Trustee Lutz. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda this evening? I see none. We have several minutes to approve due to our cancellation of the snow day. So the first set of minutes is from approval of the regular meeting of the board from February 20th. I'm looking for a mover and seconder that the minutes of the regular meeting of the board of February 20th be approved as printed. Trustee Atkinson, Trustee Johnson. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Trustee Gagnon?
It's the continuing theme for me. The land acknowledgement and the reflection is still not in our agenda packages. Everything after the call to order has to be in our agenda packages. At a particular meeting, I'm not sure if it was February or March. I was told that we would receive land acknowledgement. It's still not in our package.
Reflection. The reflection was sent to you.
That acknowledgement is not, sorry, that acknowledgement is not being included in our trustee packages.
Any other errors or omissions?
Yes,
Trustee Long?
I've heard trustee Janice request that numerous times now. Why is it still not being offered?
The land acknowledgement has been sent, isn't it? I believe originally that one. We can recirculate the land acknowledgement. It's the same each month, each meeting, and we are circulating the moment of reflection. It was moved by trustee Atkinson and seconded by trustee Johnstone that the minutes of the regular meeting of the board of February 20th, 2024 be approved as printed. All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Approval of the committee of the whole board minutes from March 5th. The minutes of the committee of the whole board meeting of March 5th, 2024 be approved as printed. Could I have a mover? Trustee Craig, trustee Luke, second. Are there any errors or omissions? You see none? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The approval of the committee of the whole board minutes from April 2nd, that the minutes of the committee of the whole board meeting of April 2nd, 2024 be approved as printed. Could I have a mover and seconder? Trustee Johnstone, trustee Lutz. Are there any errors or omissions? Trustee Picona?
Sorry, are we on April 2nd yet? Yes, okay. So with regard to D2, or under announcements, it says trustee Kaikkonen announced that we made an access request regarding the board's February 6th, 2024 decision relating to moving the April 2024 Professional Activity Day, PA Day, in response to the solar eclipse. My actual question was, what question on the climate survey did Greg Bruce help with that? And the answer from Superintendent Henry Lipset was that the climate change question was baby.
That's recorded, so Crystal will look back and she's not sure that's when that conversation occurred, but okay. And you can amend the minutes if that's absolutely, thank you. Any other errors or omissions? Speak by comment.
Maybe it's business arising, so I'll use business arising.
It was moved by trustee Johnston and seconded by trustee Lutz that the minutes of the committee of the whole board meeting of April 2nd be approved as printed. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And we have one more set of minutes, the approval of the special regular meeting of the board minutes, April 2nd, that the minutes of the special regular meeting of the board of April 2nd be approved as printed. Could I have a mover? Trustee Atkinson, seconded by trustee McComb. Any errors or omissions? I see none. All in favor? And that's carried. Business arising from the minutes.
This was regard to the March 5th minutes under B1A II. It refers to the statement from trustee Craig. Trustee Craig provided the statement regarding his recent remarks and his sometimes Vice Chair Johnston. Johnston requested that trustee Craig stop speaking at 2 minutes and 32 seconds into his statement, indicating that his statement had become a bit maligning the board. I object to that statement simply because we're allowed to have 3 minutes to speak as trustees. We have voted on that. We have approved that as a board. And to put in 2 minutes and 32 seconds actually negates the amount of time trustee Craig had to speak.
Yeah. It wasn't the time that was the issue. It was the direction of the conversation, and that's why trustee Chair Johnstone did that at the time. Go ahead.
That sounds kind of like turning off your mic. I think that if we're allowed 3 minutes to speak, trustee Craig should have had 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Any other business arise? Trustee Long?
I would just like to concur with trustee Janice. We just had a meeting where someone spoke for 7 minutes. And it's good that we are reminded of the democratic decorum of treating all others the same. Thanks.
Thank you, trustee Long. We are to our excellence in education. A very exciting presentation. I'd like to invite Superintendent of Education, Lowers, to speak to this report.
Good evening, through the chair. I would like to invite Karen Sprague, I'm the service administrator, and presenter speakers for this evening. It is so exciting, as was referred to in the reflection, that we have had students who have been participating in speaking competitions, science fair competitions, and the French competition, French speech competition. And tonight we're going to get a sample of some of their work.
I'll just offer a little bit of an introduction, then I'll invite our first speaker on. Speech competitions take place in the Watership School Board in both English and French. Winners of competitions continue their journey by competing at the Royal Canadian Legion, the Gardeners Agricultural Society, Concours d'Organitoire, and the French provincial finals at London campus at York University in Toronto, that's just to name a few. The speeches that will be highlighted this evening are from 2 schools. Mount Carrick Public School, Huron Heights Public School, and Ucarna District Senior School. I'll introduce each speaker and their topic, their grade, the school they're from, and we'll invite them to come up and do their speech for us tonight. They're used to speaking without a mic, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to hear without a mic, because I know that they're usually fairly loud, because they've done this a few times with us. So I'm going to invite Jake Stanley to come first. He's in grade 3 at Huron Heights. And his topic this evening is Titanic. Welcome, Jake. I'll just have you come to the front. Maybe stand right here, Jake.
April 10th, 1912. As some of you know, the Titanic set out on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England to New York City on April 10th, 1912. It sank at about 2:20 a.m. on April 14th, 1912, approximately 1,600 miles from the chosen book. That is about the same distance from Kincardine to Calgary. Residents of this building, today I'd like to talk about Titanic survivors, what it was like to be on the ship, and interesting facts that I've learned. Let's start by talking about some of the interesting facts. Most experts believe the ship was unsinkable. For those of you who have watched the movie, Jack and Rose were not real people who owned the Titanic. They are characters. However, some of the parts of Rose's story in the movie were based on Beatrice Wood, who was a real person on the boat who was a survivor. It took 1 year to build the Titanic and was fueled by coal. The Titanic was the biggest ship in the world during its time, 882.5 feet long, and weighed 4,328 tons. That is about 1,600 elephants. That's a very heavy ship. The ship was divided up by social class, third class people, second class, and first class. This means the third class people were the most poor on the ship, and the first were the wealthiest. They were not allowed to hang out in each other's sections of the boat. This would not be allowed in this day and age. We treat all people the same. The Titanic had all the top-line facilities and was a very luxurious boat. It had a garden of fine china, a swimming pool, and other activities. It was a very well-known fact to the passengers before they got on the boat that there were only enough lifeboats for under half of the passengers on board the ship, including the crew. This means that there were only 20 lifeboats on board the ship, and when the ship was sinking, first-class passengers, mainly women and children, were offered the lifeboats first. It was very early in the morning when the staff from the Titanic realized the boat was heading straight for an iceberg, and it was too late to steer around it. The iceberg hit and created a 300-foot tear in the bottom section of the boat. The captain, Edward John Smith, immediately ordered a help signal to be sent to any close-by ships to rescue the passengers, because he knew the unsinkable ship was going to sink. The closest ship, the SS Californian, was approximately 20 miles away, but did not receive the help signal. After this, it took only 2.5 hours for the Titanic to sink. The liner Carpathia arrived at 4 a.m., approximately 2 hours after the Titanic had sank, and rescued 705 people. The Titanic sank 112 years ago, so there are no survivors left today, and the last survivor passed away 15 years ago in 2009. Some of the survivors, including Beatrice, did not like talking about their experience on the boat, but I like to share a few stories that I've read about. One of the most famous survivors is Margaret Brown, also known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, because she survived 3 shipwrecks. She is an American socialite. She also encouraged her lifeboat to go back and search for survivors. She also started a survivors committee to help raise money for those who survived. Melvina Dean was from England, and she was the youngest passenger on board the ship. She was 9 weeks old and was joined by her parents and brother. Her mother and brother also survived. Millicent was the longest living survivor. She passed away 15 years ago in 2009, and she was 97 years old. The Titanic and its sinking are a piece of history that I find so interesting. There are movies, books, and stories you can find online that help you paint a picture of what the boat was like. These resources also help the legacy of the Titanic live on for years to come. These stories are both fiction and nonfiction. But one thing you know for sure is that the swimming pool on the Titanic is still filled with water to this day.
You know, these speakers tonight are going on to multiple levels of competitions after having one of their this full level. The next speaker is Jocelyn Durr. She's in grade 6 and she's from Big Baker. And the title of her speech is Being Short.
Many years ago, many people said, "Be right back." Now it's BRB. They also said, "Laugh out loud." Now it's LOL. So maybe shorter is actually better. Honorable judges, guests, and fellow speakers. Today, I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be short. There are advantages and disadvantages about being short. I'll start with the disadvantages, since it's the side I seem to remember the most. For starters, everyone thinks I'm younger than I really am. My mom says this will be a good thing when I'm older. but I'm not sure why. Being short has made me miss out on a lot of fun things. I've come across this problem more than I'd like to mention, but I'll tell you about one of these times anyway. It all started when my family and I were at Great Wolf Lodge. I was so excited to go on the biggest, fastest slide there. We checked into the hotel and immediately went down to the water park. Well, guess what? I was too short to go on any of the fun water slides. Instead, I had to stand at the bottom of the slide and watch my brother, my mom, and my dad go down the fun, big, twisty slides that I was so excited to go on. Another disadvantage is you can never go on any of the fun rides at amusement parks. So I get stuck with the kiddie rides. And reaching the top shelf is definitely not one of my strong suits. According to the Oxford Languages Dictionary, the word short has 14 different meanings. Some of them include little, tiny, minuscule, miniature, and wee. But the word that resonates with me the most is small. I do get teased a lot, like, hey shorty, or why are you so short? I ask myself the same question. But on the bright side, I sure am good at hide and go seek. I can fit into the smallest places that nobody ever suspects. And everyone thinks I'm cute, which means I get free candy. And one time at a restaurant, this lady I've never seen before gave me $10 because she said I was so sweet. Also, when you're short, you look younger, which I've mentioned before. But one thing's good about that is I can order a kids menu. My parents love me for that. Another advantage, well, I think it's an advantage, is that I get to be front and center in all my photos. And did you know there are lots of people with a small stature who have accomplished so much and have made a big impact on the world? For example, Simone Biles has won 7 Olympic medals and is considered one of the greatest gymnasts of all time. She's only 4'8". Ariana Grande is 5'1" and is a singer, songwriter, and actress. And started writing music at age 15. She has won many awards. This proves that big change can come from small packages. Another benefit of being short is when other people fall down, it's ah. When I fall down, it's ah. I sure do love going camping because I have no problem standing full height and maneuvering around the tent, while other people are bent over and complain that their back is sore. God only let things grow until they're perfect. Some of us didn't take as long as others. People may call me short, but I stay on fun times. That's time, short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. The last speaker is going to be looking for a speech course in French. She should get up. She's from Contemporary District Senior School. And her speech is Les Femmes on STEAM, so women and STEAM. I've heard great things about her speech, so I'm excited to hear her today.
En 1732, Laura Bassi est devenue la première femme scientifique. En 1919, Edith Clark est devenue la première femme ingénieure. Et un peu avant le 20e siècle, les femmes sont devenues permises à étudier les sciences à l'université en l'Amérique nord. Mais en 2024, moins que 30% de tous les jeunes en les domaines de STEM, de sciences, technologie, ingénierie et mathématiques sont femmes. Bonsoir tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, je vais expliquer pourquoi les femmes sont sous-représentées en les domaines de STEM, pourquoi nous devons avoir les femmes en ces domaines, et comment nous pouvons augmenter ces nombres. Quoiqu'il n'y a pas les lois qui empêchent les femmes de travailler en les carrières de STEM, il y a les construits sociaux et beaucoup de préjugés contre des filles qui veulent entrer ces carrières. Les filles ont affronté le découragement à poursuivre le STEM aussitôt que la 3e année. Par encourageant l'idée que le STEM est trop masculin et difficile pour les femmes de poursuivre, les filles sont devenues découragées et leur potentiel est perdu. Aussi, car il n'y a pas beaucoup de femmes en STEM qui les jeunes filles peuvent admirer, un trou de confiance développe avec le temps. Ce n'est pas que les filles ne peuvent pas faire le STEM bien, c'est seulement la discrimination et les stéréotypes qui arrêtent leur succès en STEM. Si nous voulons plus d'avancements en STEM, nous devons augmenter le nombre de femmes en STEM. Les femmes peuvent offrir des perspectives uniques qui peuvent aider avec nouvelles innovations, comme vous avec la création de la ceinture de sécurité, où les femmes ingénieurs ont découvert que la création a été seulement sûre pour les hommes que la création a testé avec. Maintenant, par la perspective féminine, d'innombrables vies ont été sauvées. En plus, si plus de femmes entrent les carrières de STEM, le produit intérieur brut de leur pays grandira parce que les personnes en les domaines de STEM ont un revenu élevé. Par augmenter le nombre de femmes en STEM, tout le monde peut bénéficier. Pour motiver les filles à devenir les nouvelles scientifiques et ingénieurs du futur, nous pouvons préparer aujourd'hui. Par ne pas encourager les idées qui croient que les filles ne sont pas bien les mathématiques et sciences, les filles peuvent continuer leur passion pour STEM et poursuivre les carrières après l'école secondaire. Par prôner les héritages des influences scientifiques femmes, comme Marie Curie, Catherine Johnson et Ada Lovelace, les filles peuvent continuer à changer le monde. En conclusion, nous devons motiver, préparer, encourager et soutenir les femmes en STEM, car ce ne sont pas seulement les hommes qui changeront le monde. Nous devons prendre et appliquer le conseil que l'astronaute et physicienne Sally Reid a dit au monde il y a longtemps. Si nous voulons des ingénieurs et scientifiques à l'avenir, nous devons cultiver les filles autant que les garçons. Merci pour écouter tout le monde.
Now, the vision that Isha's actually from grade 9 and 4th grade, she might be first year to just in
Thank you so much. You all did an excellent job. I'm wondering if trustees have any questions or comments. Ingrid? Oh, she's in that.
I just wanted to emphasize the fact that Isha is not from French immersion, but from grade 9 core French.
She's in grade 10. Grade 10. No.
Sure.
Can the speakers come back up? We might have some questions.
Trustee Long, do you have a question for our speakers? Trustee Lutz?
Perfect, thank you. Through the chair, thank you all so much for your fantastic speeches. They were all wonderful and very different. And I would just like to say, my experience in core French did not lead to understanding all of your speech, but I caught enough of it, which says something about your delivery and your ability to speak right. So thank you all very much, and you all did an absolutely wonderful job. Yeah, just wow. Thank you.
Student trustee Jens?
I just want to say congratulations to all of you. I know the public speaking is so difficult, so scary, but you all did so amazing. Et pour notre présentation française, je sais que c'est tellement difficile de parler en public, mais c'était absolument fantastique. C'est tellement courageux de faire en français.
I feel like you just competed in that category, but we just invented a speech with the topic.
Impromptu.
Impromptu. Yeah. Go ahead, student trustee Robinson.
I just want to say, dude, you guys did so good. Like, public speaking is such a great skill to have, and it's so great to see that all generations of students are having a chance to public speak and present, especially French immersion. I'm grade 12 French immersion. You're poor French. I think you spoke better French than I have. I'm French immersion. But those are all really great speeches. I just would say congratulations. It's really nice to see that students are public speaking.
I just wonder if you can each tell us what your next step is, where you're competing next.
Well, I'm going on to the provincial competition in Toronto at Glendale College at York University. Just speak again, but with questions. I have to answer in French afterwards.
I'm going to Shelburne on, I'm pretty sure, Saturday.
You will have company.
Do you know the title or just the title of that competition?
Area?
Of the area, okay, speech competition.
And might there be more competition after that if you do well at the area competition?
Yes. Yeah. We're going to go to Toronto provincials.
Wow. I think I speak on behalf of everyone in the room, and we wish you all the very best in your next competitions. You did an excellent job, fun. I'm not sure if there were jokes in yours, because I understood Nora. I really did wish for that, so thank you so very much. Oh,
Through the chair, I would also like to thank your people who have brought you here this evening and taken time out of their busy schedules as well to support you in this. So thank you.
Yes, you guys. Yeah, you don't want to stay. You read my mind. Come on then. Lead the way.
So much guys. Thanks so much.
excellent. There are no delegations this evening. We are to reports for committee of the whole board reports. Recommendations from the committee of the whole board from March 5th. There are 4 recommendations coming forward from the committee of the whole meeting from March 5th. Vice Chair Johnston will be the mover of these motions, and I'll be seeking a seconder. We moved by Trustee Johnstone, and we'll be looking for a seconder that the Blue Water District School Board approve the Georgian Bay Community School students participate in the Liberation of Netherlands field trip, May 29th to May 7th, contingent that it aligns with all travel advisories at the time of the trip. Can I have a seconder? Oh, you said me. Oh, I'm sorry. April 29th, and second. Trustee Atkinson? All in favor? I didn't see it. Trustee Morgan, Trustee Long, how do you vote?
Yes,
Thank you. That is carried. Secondly, that the Blue Water District School Board approve that Owen Sound District Secondary School students participate in the Liberation of the Netherlands field trip, April 29th to May 7th, contingent that it aligns with all travel advisories at the time of the trip. It's moved by trustee Johnstone, seconded by trustee McComb. All in favor? Thank you, that is carried. Next, the Blue Water District School Board approved board policy BP 3801-D, health and safety of Blue Water District School Board schools and workplaces, formerly healthy schools and workplaces, as revised for system use. Moved by trustee Johnstone, seconded by trustee McComb. All in favor? That is carried. And finally, the Blue Water District School Board approved board policy BP 3120-B, childcare in Blue Water District School Board schools, as revised for system use. Could I have a seconder, please? Trustee Atkinson. All in favor? Thank you, that is carried. I would like to invite Business Committee of the whole board, Chair Johnstone, to speak to the Business Committee report.
Yeah, so just two items for information. One was 2024-2025 budget public consultation, and the other item for information was 2024-2025 priority investment update, and that's all.
Thank you. And the next is the recommendations from the Committee of the Whole Board of April 2nd. There are no recommendations coming forward from the Committee of the Whole Board held on April 2nd, and you have the report attached in your agenda. A report from the Committee of the Whole Board in camera from this evening. I would like to invite Vice Chair Johnstone to speak to the review.
And thank you very much. So I'm moving in, so I'll be looking for someone to second this, that the agenda of the April 16, 2024 Committee of the Whole Board in Camera meeting be deemed to meet the legislative requirements for discussion in camera. And I have a second for that. Thank you, Trustee Lutz. All in favor? And that is carried. Next, moved by myself that the Blue Water District School Board ratify the memoranda of settlement with OSSTF District 7 EFP for the period September 1st, 2022 to August 31st, 2026, pending an agreement and ratification of the central terms between OSSTF Education Workers, which represents ESP District 7 and OSPA. Can I have a second for that, please? Thank you, Trustee McComb. All in favor? And that is carried. Moved by myself that the Blue Water District School Board ratify the memoranda of settlement with OSSTF District 7 for the period of September 1st, 2022 to August 31st, 2026. Pending an agreement and ratification of the central terms between OSSTF, which represents District 7, and OSPA, and pending the ratification of the memorandum of settlement by local OSSTF District 7. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Trustee Craig. All in favor? And that is carried. And finally, that Blue Water District School Board ratify the memoranda of settlement with OSSTF occasional teachers, OTs, for the period September 1st, 2022 to August 31st, 2026, pending an agreement and ratification of the central terms between OSSTF, which represents OSSTF, OTs, and OSPA, and pending the ratification of the memorandum of settlement by local OSSTF District 7 OTs. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you very much, Trustee Atkinson. All in favor? And that has carried. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
We are Are there any new notice of motions this evening? Trustee Kaikoni?
Be it resolved that the Blue Water District School Board fly the International Pro-Life flag outside every Blue Water District School Board school plus the board office annually throughout the entire month of May, starting this year, May 2024.
Are there any other notice of motion, new notice of motion this evening? None. We had a notice of motion that was brought forward by trustee Atkinson on May the 5th. There were 3 notice of motions brought forward by trustee Atkinson at the March 5th, 2024 committee of the whole meeting of the board for consideration at this meeting. Trustee Atkinson has indicated she will be withdrawing all 3 of these motions at this time. If I may, I think it's related to the fact that the government has announced, and we'll see how that plays out after the water. So the next notice of motion was brought forward by trustee Kaikkonen on April the 2nd. At the committee of the whole board meeting for consideration at this meeting. I will read the whereas clauses and put the motion on the floor for discussion. Whereas recently 4 Ontario school boards believe education funds designated for student learning and education should be used for legal fees and lawsuits. Whereas school boards and board administrations have not publicly acknowledged the serious harm caused on children from closing schools, forcing students to social distance and prolonged masking. Whereas taxpayers, and in particular property owners, have not agreed that agents of school boards can redirect education dollars to supporting legal costs. Whereas the Premier publicly stated that boards need to focus on math, reading and writing and related curriculum, as confirmed in the recent Blue Water Data Collecting Survey. Be it resolved that the Blue Water District School Board prioritize and allocate education dollars for student learning and achievement and not in the pursuit of legal actions. I'm assuming trustee Kaikkonen and a seconder, please.
Yes, please.
Trustee Long. Go ahead, trustee Kaikkonen.
The notice motion is pretty self-explanatory. My concerns are if we're going to direct education dollars to any place that shouldn't be to legal fees or integrity officers. So my concern is that we should also agree that all education dollars from taxpayers and supporters of the English Public Board should be directed to the pursuit of education and student achievement for our children.
Yes. Trustees have any commentary? Trustee Johnstone?
Yes, thank you very much. I won't be supporting this motion. The board's legal expenses are funded through the administration grant and are not taken away from student resources. There are also a few sections on legal responsibility of the board, and OPSA is being one of them. You'll notice from your Ontario Good Governance Guide, there's a whole section on our boards, public boards, legal responsibilities. So we are subject to a wide range of legal obligations and responsibilities arising from both legislation and common law, which are court rulings. A school board may face, for example, liability if it inadvertently or intentionally acts beyond the scope of its legal authority. We also should be noted that OPSB, which is the Ontario School Boards Insurance Exchange, it actually protects us from a lot of legal liability as well. So I won't be supporting this motion.
Trustee Craig?
To me, the central word in this resolved, let me read it. Resolved that Blue Water District School Board prioritize, that's the word, and allocate education dollars for student learning and achievement and not in the pursuit of legal actions. That's what we do now. If trustee Kaikkonen wanted to change the policy, she might have said that the board cease to allocate education dollars. I don't think I'd support that, but prioritize, with all due respect, seems to me meaningless.
Any other trustees? Our usual. Any other trustees have a comment? Trustee Long?
I'll be supporting this motion. It's very well worded. I believe the use of the word prioritize is exactly as it should be. And it's valid because this current board of 10 trustees has existed for near 17 months now. The predecessor board 24 months ago spent an annual salary equivalent to an educational assistant on
Trustee Long, you are
illegal that
talking
didn't
about
need to happen.
in-camera
So
items.
let's put every dollar we can towards the classroom and not waste money on frivolous legalities as has happened in the past. Great motion. Thank you for my democratic right to support it.
Trustee Long, I'll remind you that things that happen in camera remain in camera.
Well, there was no discussion of in camera just now.
Yes, there was. Any other trustees have a comment? You have it, that'd be your second. Anybody else want a first opportunity? And you want a second? And trustee Craig.
I just have one sentence or so comment, just that I will support this out of respect for the hard work that trustee Kaikkonen does on such things. She does more research and harder work at understanding some of these issues before us than practically any trustee, certainly including myself. So I'll do it out of respect for her because it's not going to do any harm.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Trustee Craig, can you please keep your comments to the motion and not suggest that the rest of us don't do our work? Thank you.
I certainly was not in my comments suggesting that the rest of us don't do our work. I was simply complimenting trustee Kaikkonen for her exemplary efforts. And many of the rest of you are also to be complimented for exemplary hard work at this board. So no, I wasn't putting anybody down.
Trustee Long, you have a second question? I think you're muted, trustee Long.
This motion represents the topic legal costs. Is there a provincial envelope that comes to a Board of Education, such as BWDSB, with a specified amount of money for legal costs? And then I have a supplementary question pending that answer. So the question is, does the province send a budget envelope with X dollars for things legal?
Superintendent Lowe.
Legal costs.
Yeah.
Legal costs are covered within the administration grant, under supplies and services, contractual services that are expected under administration. So they're not educational specific dollars, but for administration purposes.
Supplementary?
Go ahead.
I hear you saying, Andrew, those are in a general bowl called administrative costs, I think was your phrase. If those were not exhausted, would they evaporate the following year, or would they be directed towards another area needing funds?
Through the chair, they'd be redirected to our annual surplus. So contingency reserves, for example, what we're using for priority investments.
Second supplementary, or I can wait.
You've already had your 2 questions, trustee Long.
I'm asking for a third. You had,
Trustee Johnstone,
Yes, I also would like at this point to do an amendment to this, to the main motion. And I'm looking for it to put it up. So, because we found out this evening that some of the whereases were not applicable, so I'd like to be deleted from the record, whereas recently 4 Ontario school boards believe education funds designated for student learning and education should be used for legal fees and lawsuits. Number 2, whereas school board and board administrators have not publicly acknowledged the serious harm caused on children from closing school, forcing students to social distance and prolonged masking. And whereas taxpayers and in particular property owners have not agreed that agents of school boards can be redirect education dollars to supporting legal costs. And I'm looking for someone to second that.
Trustee Lutz.
So I'm going to speak to the amendment. So we've already heard, first of all, that the 4 Ontario school boards, in terms of that, has nothing to do with Blue Water, but just to let you know that it's actually not costing those school boards any money. We actually heard at OPSPA that it was being funded in a different way and not through their school board, but it has no relevance to the bearing on this resolve in this motion. Also, the next whereas school boards and administrators, the next whereas it's actually nothing to do with the recommendation or resolve on the floor at all. And whereas taxpayers is that in fact it is our legal responsibility as school boards across the province to ensure that we have good legal representation, and that if we were ever in a position where we needed that we should have it provided. And so with that, I'd like those 3 whereas is deleted from the record.
is there any further commentary on the amendment that's on the floor? Trustee Pipon?
I believe that the lawyers have agreed to do it under contingency fund, which means that if it is the case, somebody's got to pay. So at some point down the road, whether it's this year, next year, 20 years from now, when this case goes to court and the decision is made, somebody's going to have to pay if they lose.
Can I respond? It has nothing to do with our board because we're not involved. Thank you.
Yes. Trustee Long?
it has everything to do with our board in a sense of case law and precedent. And I will not be supporting the amendments because the intent of Trustee Janice's motion clearly is, let us, wherever possible, not waste money on legal costs, which has been a challenge in the past. Thank you.
Any other comments on the amendment? I see none. So I'm going to call a question of the amendment. Which, do I have wording for them?
So, let me just read the motion as it would stand with this.
Yes.
Whereas the Premier has publicly stated that boards need to focus on data, reading and writing, and related curriculum as confirmed in the recent Blue Water data collecting survey. Resolved that Blue Water District School Board prioritize and allocate education dollars for student learning and achievement and not in the pursuit of legal actions.
Point of order. I'm just going to do, we're voting at this point on the amendment and not on the main motion.
Oh,
So,
do you want me to just?
yes.
Okay, so the areas that will be struck out if this passes, would be whereas recently 4 Ontario school boards believe education funds designated for student learning and education should be used for legal fees and lawsuits. Whereas school boards and board administrations have not publicly acknowledged the serious harm caused on children from closing schools, forcing students to social distance, and prolonged masking. Whereas taxpayers and in particular property owners have not agreed that agents of school boards can redirect education dollars to supporting legal trauma.
So we are voting whether you support the removal of those 3 areas. All in favor of removing those 3 whereases? That is carried. Opposed?
Opposed?
Thank you. So now the motion will read. Whereas the Premier has publicly stated that boards need to focus on math, reading and writing and related curriculum as confirmed in the recent Blue Water data collecting survey, be it resolved that Blue Water District School Board prioritize and allocate education dollars for student learning and achievement and not in the pursuit of legal actions. It's moved by trustee Kaikkonen and seconded by trustee Long. Can I?
Recorded vote, please.
Yes, you can have a recorded vote. I'm just looking at the motion as it's worded, and if prioritize the allocation of education dollars for student learning, which we do, and not in the pursuit of legal actions, which suggests that we're taking money from the education of our students, is what I'm reading about. Okay, so it was moved by trustee Kaikkonen and seconded by trustee Long that Blue Water District School Board prioritize and allocate education dollars for student learning achievement and not in the pursuit of legal actions. All in favor of this motion?
Yes.
Opposed? And that is defeated. We are to committee.
C'est la même chose.
The committee establishments and appointments. We are looking for 2 alternative trustees for the Code of Conduct trustees. Our board policy BP 1108-D Code of Conduct trustee requires us to appoint 2 alternate trustees to act in place of our board chair or vice chair if required under the process outlined in the policy. So we're going to ask for trustees to self-nominate. If we receive more than 2 self-nominations, then trustees would be first asked if they would like to remove their name from the running, and if not, then each nominee would be put to a vote by a show of hands. Just get my notes here. All right. Is there anyone interested in this position? We see trustee Atkinson, trustee Lutz, trustee Long. Anyone else? Trustee Ikonen. Is there anyone that wants to remove their name? Trustee Long?
I do not wish to remove my name. I wish my name to stand, and if we can nominate others, I nominate trustee Craig.
He declines, but it's self-nomination.
Okay, I continue to self-nominate.
Okay, And just so everyone is aware, just the specifics from the code of conduct, just so that we all know, the chair and presiding officer, if the code of conduct applies equally to the chair in the case of an allegation of the breach of the code of conduct by the chair, whenever possible, whenever a process requires action by the chair, it should be modified to read the vice chair. And then each year, 2 alternates will be chosen by the board to act in place of the chair or vice chair of the board as needed. And when the circumstances warrant, to carry out any duties required under this code of conduct. In no circumstances shall the trustee who brought the complaint of a breach of the code be involved in conducting any formal inquiry into the complaint. So I think, and this is a new process for me, but we will go through by order that the names came in. And if a trustee gets more than 50%, then, okay. So first we have. See, Greg?
Question, point of order, but what you just finished saying would seem to suggest that trustee Long, if we find ourselves in a code of conduct dispute, we can call it that, the chair or vice chair, that he could not participate in that. So how could he then be chosen as one of the alternate trustees?
That is correct. We'll have 2. So it would be in that case that if he was chosen, it would be the other trustee that would have to be stepping into that role. Because we'll have 2 alternates. Does that make sense?
Sort of makes sense, but it would make more sense given that we know why this is coming about. That trustee Long just recused himself from this whole process.
I would say that's trustee Long's choice.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if anything that we need to be careful with what we're saying, that nothing that is from in camera comes out of in camera, and I'm not sure if it is at any point, I don't know.
Trustee Keiko.
Seems to me, we talked about this at the executive committee, which is not in camera this morning. And one of the things we discussed was that these 2 alternates are supposed to be decided on and voted on every year. So according to policy, so this has nothing to do with the in-camera. It has nothing to do with where some people might think this is coming from. This is basically the policy saying that every year there should be 2 alternates decided. That is what we're doing. It has nothing to do with anything else.
Correct.
My hand is raised.
Go ahead.
If, God forbid, we had a situation where everyone had a allegation against them, then of course we would have to do it on a case-by-case format to find 2 alternate trustees. That should answer Trustee Craig's concern. Secondly, the wording in the policy you read, Chair Jane, clearly indicates this should be done every year. And obviously we were remiss last school year. We've never done this before, so we'll need, and it sounds the way you're speaking, it hasn't been done in your 9 or 12 or 15 years of being a trustee either. So we'll have to do this on a more regular basis, namely annually. There are members in the public gallery tonight, and they it's good that we're talking about this because they'll be wondering what's all this about. And I do appreciate the succinct descriptions of policy, Trustee Craig's observation, and also the reality that if I said, as I said, God forbid, in a bizarre situation where there were code of conduct allegations all around, of course, that would never happen in a board that's working well with good leadership. But anyways, then of course, it would be quite a mucky zone to try and decide two alternate trustees if there were situations where the two alternate trustees chosen had no allegations against them. I do hope that's clear, but I can try to make that clearer if necessary. Let me know.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to vote. I'm going to start with trustee Atkinson. A show of hands if trustee Atkinson is the choice that you would make for someone to be an alternate trustee on a code of conduct. And I will be voting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So trustee Atkinson is one of our alternates. So we are choosing a second alternate.
Point of order. Point of order.
Yes.
What was your criteria for saying names? What was your criteria for saying the name of trustee Atkinson first? Was it alphabetical?
I saw her first when she put up her hand.
Pardon me?
I saw her first when she put up her hand.
Interesting. Thank you.
I would also like to point out that trustees are very free to not raise their hand if it's not someone that they would like to choose, and they can save their vote for someone that they would prefer. So next, I'm going to ask if trustee Lutz is a person you would like to have as a alternate on this code of conduct for the inform or the code of conduct alternates. It was 1, 2, 3. Fran, I see Fran. So that is also carried.
What was the number?
It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
The first one was 7.
7, yes.
Right.
And the fact that I immediately said I self-nominate when you called nominations has holds no weight. How interesting. How glaringly interesting. Thank you.
Movers and seconders. Sorry, I didn't put it on the floor in the first place. So I need a mover and seconder that we do that. Trustee Johnstone and seconder trustee McComb. And that is trustee, so that the Blue Water appoint 2 alternates in accordance with requirements of BP 1108-D Code of Conduct. Trustees to be in place until the 2024 initial meeting of the board. It's trustee Atkinson, trustee Lutz, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Opposed?
Reports for information. We have the Student Senate report, and I'd like to invite student trustee Enns to present the report.
Took me a little longer to become perfect. Students are hard at work with midterms coming up, and everybody's in high spirits with the weather getting a little bit better. Grey Highlands had Women's History Month fundraiser for the Women's Center of Grey Bruce. Their Equity Council created a wellness board with supports for students on it. They also hosted the Black Student Forum for our board, which you'll hear about later on from Senator Gibson. OSDSS is having PJ Day, the most engaged and spirit day of the year. The OSDSS Equity Council is having a coffee house featuring local youth musicians, and a portion of the proceeds will go to the Dreamcatcher Charitable Foundation. They are also running a chicken fundraiser for their Europe trip next year. Washington District is starting a girls softball team. They also run a spaghetti dinner fundraiser for Student Council and Prom. Simon District had a talent show, and Georgian Bay had students move on to Oslo for badminton. Grade 12 French immersion students from across the board are writing and studying for their DELF examinations. And soccer, rugby, and mountain biking teams are starting off all across the board. At our last student senate meeting, the public health came to share their knock experiment program, Stop Vaping in Our Schools, for feedback. And some of our schools are starting to implement the resources that they brought to us.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for student trustee and I always feel like we get to this time of year and it feels like the ball is rolling downhill really quickly, that there's a lot going on and a lot of wrap up sounds like there's so many activities going on for students. Thank you so much. Our staff reports, I'd like to invite Superintendent of Education, Flowers, to come and speak to the report on early reading screening interventions.
Didn't take me as long. Good evening. We are going to talk to you tonight from the program team in learning services about some of the reading screening interventions that we're doing. I'd like to call Learning Services Administrator Karen Sprague up to speak to our report. And we also have two of our primary literacy coaches with us tonight to share the work that they do with regards to early reading.
Kristen, it should be in your, I invited you earlier.
I know Eric got the invitation, put it with it, so I could just remember to, I'll read and the invitations. So, early reading. The fall of 2019, the Ontario Human Rights Commission, OHRC, lodged an inquiry into learning disabilities such as dyslexia, and how they were affecting students. The report was released in January 2022, offering numerous recommendations for Ontario schools. Response to this need, BWDSB has hired 6 primary and 2 junior literacy coaches to support both students and teachers. Examples of initiatives supported by in-school coaches are early reading screening, the implementation of the program UFly, which stands for the University of Florida Literacy Institute, foundations, explicit and systematic reading instruction for students in kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2, and targeted reading intervention for students in grades 1 through 12. I'd like to invite 2 of our primary literacy coaches this evening, Kim Felsinger and Kelsey Shearer, to demonstrate one measure of the Academic Reading Primary Screener and to briefly highlight steps that we are taking to determine early reading gaps and provide targeted intervention. I think for impact.
It says it's calling you. You go back.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, enough. Orange or green? You can share. We could use it. Oh, I apologize. Okay.
All right, my name is Kelsey Shear and this is Kim Singer. We are two primary literacy coaches in the board. As Karen mentioned, we currently have 6 primary literacy coaches and 2 junior literacy coaches. We support teacher professional development in all areas of literacy. As primary coaches, also provide student-facing intervention in 6 to 8 weeks. We know that an important part of good teaching is valid and reliable measures of where students are in their learning and tools that help us figure out if we are moving students forward. One of those tools that we use in Blue Water District School Board is Acadience Reading K-6. It is a benchmark screener, and it is one of 3 that is currently approved by the Ministry of Education. It is a set of measures that are used to assess the essential early literacy and reading skills from the second year of kindergarten all the way to grade 6. We currently use it in the primary project and the junior project. It includes measures that are most useful for that time of the year or that student's development in making some instructional decisions. So one of the first things that we do when we go into a school is we help teachers collect data that helps us figure out who's at risk, who might need our intervention, and how we can help that teacher and those students moving forward. One of the measures that we're going to show you today is called the nonsense word fluency measure. We do this in the middle of year 2 kindergarten to the beginning of year, the beginning of year in grade 2. It is a brief and direct measure of alphabetic principle and basic phonics. So alphabetic principle is your understanding that language is made up of sounds and that letters represent those sounds in a systematic way. So we know that the letter M says and we know that that is a sound that we say when we say words like man, monkey, spooning, demand. Phonics is a system of letter-sound relationships that is the foundation for decoding words. So it begins with the most common sound for each letter, usually consonant sounds and our short vowel sounds that we use to decode simple words, and then it progressively gets more challenging. We also know that phonics can be explicitly taught and practiced. One of the questions that we get very often is why nonsense words? Well, basically, to successfully complete a nonsense word fluency assessment, the student must apply their knowledge of letter sound correspondences to blend sounds and decode words. It is considered a relatively pure assessment of their ability to do basic phonics and the alphabetic principle because these words have no lexical entry. So in that sense, we might know the word mom, cat, dog, especially in year 2 kindergarten because we see those words a lot, we write those words a lot. But we want to know if students can apply their understanding to new words. So it assesses their knowledge of basic letter sound correspondences to blend letter sounds into vowel consonants or it, and CBC words, so words like dog, cat, and that sort of thing. Primary difference between good readers and poor readers is the ability to use their letter sound correspondences to read words. So this allows us to get into students as early as year 2 kindergarten and figure out who is at risk and who's going to need our support.
Now I'm going to administer a nonsense word fluency for you. So Karen's going to be our volunteer student.
Yes. Oh, here's my test. Okay.
So it's very scripted and you stick to the script. So I'm going to run through it for you. We are going to read some nonsense words. This is the word sog. The sounds in the word sog are good. Your turn. I want you to read this make-believe word. If you can't read the whole word, can you tell me the sounds that you know? Mip. Very good. It, or mit. I would like you to read some more make-believe words. Do your very best reading. If you can't read the whole word, tell me the sounds that you know. Ready? Begin.
But all, ball, kiv, all, jack, lel, fidge, cog, jet, odge, big, wav, heck, yaz, bub, fiv, ek, badge, frog,
Puck, og, wap, beck, him, jump, hag, nil,
Which is really a word.
heb, seb, ab, zap, hitch, bok, bull, fab, zek, sick, ot, top, tub,
Yeah.
zev, gib, zap, hitch, lick, swap. So you know, it's a 1-minute assessment. And we don't usually get that far. And I've never had to move that quick. So I got tired of it may not be as accurate. But what we do is we end up counting correct letter sounds. So that's why I was underlining them. And then whole words read. So this would count as 3 correct letter sounds, but 0 whole words read. So initially they need to read the whole word read, like she said on the second one through. So, like I said, results are calculated by counting those sounds. Acadian's non-scent word fluency is a measure that we use to identify kids who are at risk, and results are compared to standardized norms. You now are going to have an opportunity to do an activity that our coaches and students might do in their classrooms to improve and build their skills. So the first activity that we're going to do is called a word chain, and it's a playful interactive activity that supports the development of the alphabet principle and basic phonics skills. So we have put magnetic boards and whiteboards in front of you. You can choose to do either or. You choose the magnetic boards or the whiteboards. Give it to Christine. I'm going to ask you to spell some words. For the magnetic boards, you bring the letters down to the Alconin boxes along the bottom. And just, yeah, thank you. So just along the bottom. For the whiteboards, you can just record them in kind of a chain. The first word I would like you to spell is the word land. L-A-N-D. Land. I'd like you to change land to gland. I'd like you to change the G to a B. And what's the word we have? I'd like you to change bland to blend. I'd like you to change blend to lend. Change the L to an S. What's our new word? Thank you. I'd like you to spell for me the word spend. Change the D to a T.
For what?
What's our new word? And last word, I'd like you to change spent to sent. Sent.
Can you use it in a sentence?
I sent a letter to my grandma. Sent. So reading encourages children to make connections between letter sounds and their corresponding written letter by segmenting, manipulating, and blending individual sounds to form new words. Often word chaining will lead to the creation of word families like cat, bat, and rat, which explores patterns and helps children recognize common phonetic patterns and develop their understanding of spelling and word structure. Word chaining also supports the development of phonological awareness by focusing on initial middle, and ending sounds in words. Phonological awareness is the ability to recognize and manipulate individual sounds in the spoken word. The difference between using the magnetic board and then writing on the whiteboard is it increases the cognitive load because students will have to be able to form the letters when they're writing them, where younger students can often recognize the letters and manipulate the letters down. So depending on classrooms, you can change based on your needs. So all of our schools and all of our schools, kindergarten to grade 3, have access to the magnetic boards and tiles. They also have access to the University of Florida's foundational manual, also known as UFly, that has a series of word chains in them.
And lastly, I'd like to highlight Lexia. We currently have over 3,000 students using a online blended learning model known as Lexia. We have Lexia Core 5 for our K-5 students and Power Up for our 6 to 8 students. It includes a student-led online platform, teacher-directed lessons, and then student self-directed review. Throughout, there are several activities that support the development of basic phonics and alphabetic principle, like worksheets. Thank you.
Thank you. Do trustees have questions or comments? Trustee Gray.
I wonder if one of the primary benefits of this UFly system is that it's a fun. You know, that students who might be frustrated by a sort of more academic approach to phonics will really get into this and try to be faster than anybody else in the room. Is that why it works?
That could be part of the reason that it's fun. They also have a chance to be successful and get seen very quickly when they're successful. And there's a lot to be said for feeling successful in our learning. So that can be part of it as well. I think as well, what the team has shared, the very intentional way of breaking down the words and building the words, that it's all based on research. And so the intentional structure of the program is also very beneficial for the student learning. So we can
Question, Carly.
I'll see if.
Yeah, not off. Oh, okay, if somebody else speaking,
I'll
please.
see if anyone else has a question and then I'll come back to you. Trustee Gagnon.
Noticed from this standardized testing that we're not doing very well in Blue Water, so I'm just wondering, what are the results that you're seeing?
We track data on a regular basis. We do a cadence screening at the beginning of the year. We've done cadence screening in our various schools in the middle of the year as well. And we're looking at different elements, different data pieces, everything from reading fluency, some of the measures that you see right here, to automaticity, how many words can a student read within a minute. And overall, where there's interventions in high school, we're tracking it carefully, we're seeing student improvement. We also have to remember too that E3L measures comprehension. And with the accommodations that are in place, it doesn't measure decoding the same way as the work that we're doing. So a student can do well on E3L because they understand, but they can't necessarily decode. And a lot of our work is around decoding.
Any other questions? Trustee, I'll go to trustee Enns and then I'll come to you, trustee Gray.
Could you explain the difference between decoding and understanding?
There's many levels, like we call it the Scarborough world. So there's, to be a skilled reader, you have to decode, and there's also comprehension elements to the process of reading. And really when we're working with primary, we're doing a bit of both, but we're starting first with making sure that they can actually read the words. So a lot of their work is around reading the words, and then later get into the comprehension of learning together.
So my questions pertain in a way to the evaluation of UFly and Lexia. How do you track and evaluate the success, failure of these programs? I'll throw the questions at you all at once and you can comment on this aspect of things. Are there alternatives that this board has rejected or has proven not to choose, if you like? Is there any possibility that you would reject such a program if your evaluations, your tracking don't indicate student success?
So our team is very, very knowledgeable in this area, as you're aware. They've been doing the work around early reading strategies for quite a long time. And so when we decided, we're trying to decide on a screening tool that we would use, because we knew that the ministry was going to be requesting that we choose a screening tool. And they gave us a list of tools to choose from. Our team did a lot of work over the past 2 to 3 years, I think even, digging into the research behind these tools and trying to find the tool that best fit the way we could implement in Blue Water. And we talked to people in other boards to get their feedback as well. Our team also attends a lot of professional learning on their own parts, so that they can stay current and be at the forefront of what is going on in early reading strategies and literacy. And so when we chose the Acadians, we ruled out the others because it was the one that seemed to best based on the knowledge that our team has.
Sort of the question.
Did they get to know?
Just a little more follow-up there. Okay, first of all, I really do like what I've learned before about Lexia and UFly. And I think they probably are doing the job, but I'm curious. How many boards are using these two tools in particular? Have they become the winner in the reading sweepstakes? What I'm looking for is what other alternatives are they, and maybe even why did you reject them?
There's 3 of these at CBN. There are 3. You go ahead. Kelsey actually did the research. What we did just before Christmas time was that there were 3 offered by the ministry. So we tried on all 3. We asked for access. I think it's the Easy CBN, Acadians, and the third one is, you probably know better than I do, Web, Ames Web. So they took them all to students, tried them with students, looked at the efficiency of the data, like how long does it take to administer the screener, and are we getting the same data with a shorter period of time, because that's less time in a class. And in the end, we worked collaboratively. We had a chart, we charted what we liked, what we didn't like, the efficiency, data, what kind of data we were getting from each one, and we landed on Acadians. So we don't make decisions quickly. It took us weeks to come to that decision. So we made sure that and as a team, we have many experts around the table. You have 2 experts in front of you. So we take time, we ponder, we collect data, and look at all the many different factors before we arrive at a decision. I think UFly, for example, is used almost universally across the province of Ontario. Lexia is used in many boards again. So we're not only looking at Blue Water, but we're also, some of our staff are involved in provincial meetings and hearing what other boards are doing. They're hearing the benefits, they're hearing the issues that they're having, so we're listening to them as well, as well as learning what we are doing from what we're doing with Blue Water.
Really good answers.
I have a question. I just wondered, as we were doing this exercise, if there's a tool or tools that go home with the students to their parents, so that they can practice at home, parents can learn how the students are learning, if that's built into this.
Yeah, so one of the amazing things about UFly is the professional development piece and the ongoing updates. So the University of Florida Literacy Institute is actually a non-profit organization. And so part of their mandate was to make it accessible to students, teachers, and parents. So with every lesson in UFly, there is a home parent guide It's kept relatively short, but there is a parent page that shows you how to do like a short word chain with your student, and it has a list of words and a few sentences for them to spell and read. And then there is also the decodable texts that go with UFLAT are available online, so that parents could theoretically have a PDF, or we could put it on something like Brightspace, or they can be printed to be sent home. So I think that was also another consideration with the program, is that the University of Florida Literacy Institute is constantly updating and providing more resources. Just recently, they updated to offer some sort of, they're shorter like unit tests that you can do after each section of lessons, just to get an even better sense of where your students are at.
Trustee Long. We're not hearing you, Trustee Long. I don't know if you're muted. This microphone is muted. Trustee Long, I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you. I wonder if you should exit the meeting and join back in, and we'll come back to you with your question.
How about now?
Oh, good. Yep.
Thank you for your thorough presentation. I have two questions. I'll certainly wait my turn for the second one. Some would suggest that because of the digital instruction that lacks closed captions, and therefore the lack of creative or social play, the program has some challenges. How would you respond to that concern?
Didn't quite hear what you said. Could you repeat that?
Can you repeat your question?
Some have expressed a concern as they continue to research Lexia, that because of the digital instruction that it does involve, which lacks closed captions, and therefore, because it's digital, it lacks creative or social play. Have you observed any concerns in that area?
Captions.
Like, have like, that the kids are online and not interested?
Yes.
But they're not on for.
No.
So Lexi's design is a 20-minute kind of per day, and it's based on how the student does and appears in their dashboard. It's a blended learning environment, so it's the online component, but there's also teacher instruction that goes with it. And then there are student skill builders. So it's not strictly an online program. It incorporates more than that. And it is really only a short little snippet of their day. Most of my kiddos that I've been working with are on it maximum 20 minutes, and they can move on from there.
Supplementary, or do you wish me to wait, Chair?
Go ahead, Trustee Long.
A study by WWC suggested that Lexia does do good works with alphabetics and comprehension, but may be weaker on noticeable effects regarding fluency and general reading achievement. And noting that one of our mandates is student achievement, have you noticed any of those concerns in your work with Lexia?
Student achievement is
So students have to have a good, strong foundation in decoding before they're able to recognize words quickly enough to be able to have fluency. And so Lexia starts out with building those decoding skills so that they are able to develop that speed and to build that fluency, which supports their comprehension. The other, there's, as stressed earlier, there's two levels of Lexia, and the power up level is for our older students. And it tends to move at a slightly faster pace in the understanding, and building the understanding of our older students.
I have another question, but I'll wait my turn for it.
I was just gonna add that, there are multiple components to literacy, so there really isn't any one lesson that needs all of those components. So during the part of the day that we are doing youth lab, we are trying to build authenticity of the word level reading. And then later on, we would do more of the comprehension building, which is also important for fluency. So I don't know that, we can really say that any one piece of instruction meets all of those needs. It's the combination and the way that we tier that to student needs that builds sort of the whole picture of literacy.
Do trustees have any other comments or questions? And then I'll go back to trustee Long for a final question. Trustee Long, final question.
You mentioned, University of South Florida, I think it was USF or something close to that. I'll assume then that that means there's no cutting edge scientific based research on reading occurring at Canadian educational institutions that would match the quality and level of the Florida institution.
We often, it's not the first time that we have been influenced by the United States or worked in partnership with the United States or use material from the United States. By all means, we, I think we always would prefer to use Canadian if it's available to us. In this case, the best is from the University of Florida. And I would assume that most of us would want the best for our students. So, and we're also working in the same vein with French immersion, and French immersion is definitely more influenced by Canadian research and Canadian input than the English materials that we're using right now.
Thank you.
Wait, another question. Yes.
I said that was our last question, but we'll let you have the final.
Madam Chair, we all know that engaging parents and helping their kids learn to read is very important. If the parents are excited, the kids will get excited, right? So I'd like to know how these programs accomplish that. How do they get the parents involved, building excitement about it?
Through the chair. So as I just shared earlier, there are materials that go home for the parents to decodable decks, for example, that are built with words that students can read, children can read, to encourage the parents to get involved. We've also had literacy nights that have been held in many of our schools where someone from our team has gone to support explaining to parents the direction that we're taking with literacy. Sometimes it's a case of showing parents just how to read with their child, like looking to the words or sounding of the words, that type of thing, to build that confidence in the parents as well. We also get a lot of reports from parents telling us that, I just did one last week from a grade 7 student whose parents were thrilled because he was reading labels in the store when they were in the grocery store. For the first time, he was able to decode the words on the labels. So we get a lot of feedback as students become more successful. They get excited and they share with their parents, and their parents get excited because their child is learning to read.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And we'll give a few minutes for collecting our things, and then we'll invite Superintendent of Education Lefebvre to speak to our next report.
Oh, thank you. Get them right then. We can't really. I'm not sure.
Information there are, there, I'm 20,
Thank you again. So next we have Superintendent of Education Lefebvre to speak to the Black Student Forum report. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Chair, trustees, thank you. The Black Student Forum, I'm honored to be able to present to you, and reflect on the Black Student Forum that took place, just last week, on Tuesday, April 9th. As you can see in the report, we invited Orlando Owen, and his team from One Voice, One Team, to come and join us at Great Highlands Secondary School. We had approximately 75 students from 8 different schools attend the event that day. It was a huge success. As you may have seen or heard me on the radio, well, you would have seen me on the radio. You heard me on the radio, or saw any of the reports that have come out through media outlets. It had a huge uptake in the area, and a number of people reaching out to me asking about the event. How well, why did we have a Black Student Forum, the power of student voice, and I was able to share a number of things, a number of aha moments for me during that session. I have to say, Orlando was an amazing person. He went to play college football down in the Stacey country of Jamaica in Canada, his family. Went to play college football in the States, then came up and played in the CFL with Toronto Argonauts, Hamilton. He was involved in an assault in the Greater Toronto area, where he literally was fighting for his life. He did survive, but he ended up not being able to play professional football ever again. But when you listen to him talk and share his story, and these were 2 white police officers that actually had beaten him up. And these were 2 officers that he had actually trained on how to work with Black families, Black youth in their role. When they realized who it was, they actually turned around and tried to break him. And it came out later what they had done. All charges were dropped. He was exonerated. The police officers were caught in an RCMP sting and in a huge drug bust, and they were arrested for what they had done. Orlando, when he talks to us though, and he's sharing with the students, it's incredible because he doesn't sound angry. He talks about how this really gave him resolve to do more work and to help people understand what it means to be a marginalized person in Canada. And the day was extremely powerful during the session. The students, I didn't go into the workshops with the students, so Orlando's team, Jeff and Sherry were there, and they led the 2 sessions. And then the students swapped in the afternoon, and they did more discussions and sharing. And we've got all of those results. I'll share with you in just a second what we're going to be doing with that. But I didn't join in those sessions because it wasn't for me to be in there. This was for the students to talk and share. It needed to be done with someone that looked like them, not like me. And it worked. The students opened up. We had students coming at the start of the day, hoods up, shut down, actually being rude. Over on one side, they're being quite rude and ignoring Orlando and even talking. And Orlando just, in his way, he got right up and he's like, hey man, like this is for you. I want you to be successful. I care. And he's high-fiving the students. They started to open up. By the end of the day, they were loved. And they really respected the message he was bringing. And I'm going to turn it over right now to student Senator Beechin, who's going to be sharing with you a little bit about her experience during the day, her journey, and then I'm going to come back and share with you a little bit about what we're going to be doing next with this data and how we're going to use this to move forward.
Last week, I had the opportunity to attend Black Student Forum at my school. Now, before I explain my experience at the forum, I wanted to say a little bit about who I am. I am biracial, or as I like to call it, I am mixed. This means that my parents have different ethnic backgrounds. My dad is brown and of Guyanese culture, and my mom is Caucasian. Now, the reason I'm explaining this is because growing up, I often didn't really get to express my Guyanese culture, and being mixed is really difficult because you don't know where you fit. I'm not just one race, I'm two. They are both equally important to me. This forum really allowed me and many of my friends I know that went to the forum to feel like we belonged and that our voices are worthy. Orlando Bowen and his team gave the students at the forum a very inspiring and interactive speech that showed us that our voices matter. We were able to discuss strategies on how to help eliminate racism and microaggression in our schools, and of course, the amazing jerk chicken lunch that we had. In my opinion, forums like these really are important to our student body because it's a way to show us that our voices matter and how we can use them to have an impact on not only our schools, but our communities as well. Thank you.
The area superintendent for Great Highlands, Superintendent Henry Lipson was also there that day. We did enjoy the jerk chicken. I had the jerk chicken, I forget what you had, but it was awesome. They actually do that celebration. They have a Jamaican cook, a restaurant that comes in and a local family. Oh, awesome. Okay. I knew there was a connection to the school. And so that's fabulous. And they do that once a month. And the kids were actually asking all the kids in the hallway, because I was talking to like all the students who weren't part of the Black Student Forum. And they were saying, can we get some of the chicken? Like, we want some, we want the lunch. So unfortunately, we were able to offer a few. It went phenomenally well. One of the messages that really resounded to me, though, and I shared this as well yesterday when we were doing an Indigenous professional development session with our elders from and members from both Saugeen and Nawash. We were at the Outdoors Education Center as administrators, and we were doing some professional development for our school leaders around local history and understanding local history and the knowledge and thinking that is local to this area. And we the powerful message that came in the Black Student Forum resonated for me. It's really for all students, but it also applies to a number of our Indigenous students who are somewhat marginalized within our schools. And that is, a student said to Orlando and his team, they said, if I just want people to get to know me and ask me questions, understand who I am, what my dreams and aspirations are, and help me realize them. And when you think about that, that's so powerful, and that message is what we need to be thinking about for all of our students, not just our Black students, for all of our students. So that was one message that was just, it really resounded. But there were a number of things that came out of there. We met with Orlando and Sherry. Jeff's not available. We had a small meeting today. Kim Parkinson, the learning service administrator, and myself. We met with the team and we chatted with them about the results that came back, the information, the feedback from the students, because there was a survey as well, and then our next steps. And one of the things that many of the students said afterwards, they said, I hope that they do something with this information. Like, I want to see next steps. There's almost like a little bit of a lack of trust in that we were going to take action. And Orlando says, I know you will, Keith. Like, I know you're committed to this. So what can we do as next steps? And I said, well, let's start with looking at this data. We'll put it into sorry, I'm just a little focused by that shirt. Can you, yeah. Yeah, maybe people online could turn off their cameras, that might be. Thanks. Moving forward, what we want to do is I really want to take the data from the students and put that back into a presentation. We're gonna meet with all the students who participated in the session, as well as we're hoping to meet with the teacher leaders within the school that help with those affinity groups, like the BIPOC groups, as well as the administrators. And just do a quick team session, maybe 45 minutes, a lunchtime session where we review and share back what the students are saying and share back some of the things that we can be doing moving forward. Some of these messages that we heard clearly from the students. And then at the schools, they can talk about next steps that they can take within their schools as well. Kim and I know as a team and together with Ian, we've been working and looking at this data. We know what needs to keep happening within the board. As we become more diverse, we need to be offering these student forums and allow students to be able to express themselves, their experiences, create welcoming, inclusive environments for all students within our schools. We'll continue to do that. It was a fabulous day. Do you want to add anything else? Is that good? That's good. Okay, thank you very much.
Do trustees have any comments or questions about this form? Trustee Lutz?
I just want to thank the student senator for sharing her experience at the forum and for being open about her experiences outside of it as well. So thank you very much. That can be a real challenge and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes, thank you. So you said there were 75 students where they were from across Blue Water, and there was an invitation that went out to all schools, and any student who identified as a racialized person could attend. Is that correct?
Yes, oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
So personally, I'm not part of our BIPOC. I had too much going on, so I didn't join it this year. But a teacher noticed me in the hallway, and I actually submitted a video for a contest. And she was able to notice something that I don't usually share a lot. So it wasn't just kids who are in like BIPOC groups. Like my teacher was able to talk to lots of different kids and was able to get a lot of different people involved in the forum.
And that included like somebody maybe, so maybe a teacher talked to students saying, hey, I think this would be a great forum for you. And then students who self-identified as that, just trying to, and having students attend, I'm thinking about where it was, it might be really far away, say from King Harbin.
Thank you, through the chair. So we did put out, the invite to all the schools. Every school designates a little bit differently. I'm sure there were a lot of announcements put out. BIPOC groups probably would have talked about it within groups. I think there was a lot of shoulder tapping that went on as well, asking students if they want to come. A few of the students were quite honest, so they said, I came because I was told no school for a day and a great lunch. That they were very honest with us, but afterwards they said this was the best thing that I have done in a really long time, and I'm really excited about my future. So those are the types of comments that we heard afterwards. And in all honesty, that during the session today when I was reviewing with Orlando, he said, had we said to students, had we gone up to students though, honestly, and said, hey, come out and listen to someone talk about how bright your future can be, that probably wouldn't have sold them. The food and the day off school is probably the hook.
Trustee Long?
Thank you for that thorough presentation, Keith, and the wonderful initiatives we're taking for the marginalized, both in our society and in our schools. As a marginalized, self-identified, heterosexual, queer, two-spirit, Indigenous person, I'm very grateful anytime that we show leadership in helping the marginalized and letting everybody have a voice and a place where they can feel safe. and I'm really proud of our work in this area. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Gagnon.
Thank you, Kate. You started your presentation with a comment. I think it was a comment more than a question. Parents were reaching out asking, why did we have a Black student forum? What was behind them asking that question?
Right, I might have been misheard through the chair. That was actually the radio station that just asked the question. Why a Black student forum? Why the first Black student forum? And my answer was that when we had if you would you like a response to that then?
Sure, I'm always interested in finding out what radio stations get us information that we trustees don't. So go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. So what I responded to them was in the last few years, we have increased the number of student forums that we have had, valuing the input of our students. During our last few unlearned student forums, which have had approximately 100 students, grades 7 to 12, the last few years. And it was a 2-day forum this year in the fall in November. One thing that we noticed, we had some schools like Great Highlands bringing a number of racialized students there to the forum. And what we are hearing from staff and from the students themselves is that, that they would like an opportunity, a voice to be able to talk about some things that are unique to them and their experience and their culture. So we said to ourselves, yeah, I think that's a great idea. We have an Indigenous student forum, which is for all self-identified Indigenous students within the board. We find a way to get them to Blue Water. This year it's going to be held at the Outdoor Education Center next month. We have a Rainbow Forum for 2S LGBTQIA+ identifying students, and that will be taking place here at the Blue Water Education Center. We had the Unlearned Student Forum, which was for all student leaders. This year, I think it was 9 to 12 instead of the 7 to 12, just because of sheer numbers. And then we also had our Black Student Forum. So 4 student forums to make sure that we hear what the students are saying and then we take action.
It's supplemental.
I'm going to Trustee Long. Trustee Long?
Yeah, I too would love to attend these things if I knew about them beforehand. I've asked numerous times to be informed, but somehow the system doesn't. Maybe we'll get better at that. Anyways, wonderful to hear these forums. I believe you described four different forums of potentially marginalized groups. But the next step to that, of course, is how do we get towards belonging? I like the word belonging. It reminds me of bringing people together, not diversifying people or unequitizing people, or not including people. So how do we move towards a sense of belonging? How do we create forums where maybe it's not just one marginalized group on that day and then a different day another marginalized group? How do we bring those marginalized groups together? And then most importantly, our society's great challenge, how do we help them feel loved and valued in the general world? I think that's our next step. Good to hear these first baby steps, but the big enduring challenge is how do we bring everyone together so that we all have a sense of belonging. It would be wonderful to hear somebody talk on that sometime. Belonging, a delegation or something, perhaps. Anyways, thank you. Eager to hear your answer, sir. Thanks again for all your efforts.
So through the chair, just with respect to the first question, participation is really these are student forums. They're not trustee forums. They're student forums. So they're for the students. The reason that we're there as adults is because we're supervising them. As I said before, I stayed out of the workshops themselves, and I was supervising, but of course I was interacting with the students as well during lunch and during other periods. But as my student senators and student trustees can attest, They were a big part of building and developing the Unlearn Student Forum for all students to participate in the fall. And that was student-led. It was student-driven, and they can attest. Well, I didn't sit around those tables and tell them what to say or to drive the conversation. We have to realize too that as adults, when we sit around and our presence is felt, sometimes the conversation changes a little bit. And we need to give them that opportunity to be able to speak truthfully and share with us. So we have some wonderful youth leaders that come in, experts who come in, and sometimes it's that third party that comes in that can maybe hear a little bit more than we can, because the students, when I'm around as a superintendent or a principal or a teacher, maybe the conversation is shut down a little bit. It might be the same with the trustees here. And in terms of the belonging, I guess the Unlearn is something that is happening. The Unlearn Student Forum is for all. But I guess I would just point out there are a number of things like Black History Month, or we talked about Women's History Month just a little while ago. The students brought that up. I don't think we ever asked why is there not a Men's History Month. It's okay that we have a Women's History Month to highlight, because for a number of years, women were not provided with the same opportunities for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I've got a daughter who just graduated from engineering at Carleton, very proud. And you know what? That probably wouldn't have happened 100 years ago when women were just able to vote. So that marginalized group certainly deserves some focus and attention. And I don't think anyone would question what it meant. So I don't think in this case, if we're providing opportunities for Black students to talk and share, or Indigenous students to talk and share, I don't think you can then say, what about white students?
Regis comment.
Wow.
Trustee Icahn?
Got back to follow. Okay, so how many more forms do you think we're going to need before we can actually fulfill the mantra for Blue Water District School Board that says that we are diverse, inclusive, and equitable? Just wondering, because we do this a lot, these forms for students, and I would really like to see us get to belonging as well, and enjoying one another's company and being peers as we were when we were growing up. The other point I'd like to make is just like, what's wrong with having white students or men as well? We're all in the same family of humans in this country. So I think that it's time we come together as opposed to the other. But I just like, we talk about DEI all the time, our story, DEI, all the time. And we have a lot of forums that go along with that, but we don't seem to ever get to the point where we can say, hey, we got there. Thank you.
Excellent question and comment, and I'll just share a little something that Joan John, a Southgate counselor, shared with us at the forum the other day. And when I don't hear a story like this, I think that's when we stop. She's at a local grocery store in Southgate area. She's followed around from the time that she walks in until for about 5 minutes, she's being followed by an employee. She turns and asks, why are you following me? Well, we've had a lot of theft in the last little while. Continues to follow her. She turns around and says, well, you're following the wrong person. I don't hear that happening 10 days ago, I think that's when we can stop having some of these DEI and conferences and discussions and forums.
We've had our 2 questions from anyone that was wanting to speak, so I'm going to say thank you very much. Thank you so much for your student voice for us tonight. And we're going to move on to communication. We had the following correspondence received. It was an email from March 12th from the Director of Ministerial Correspondence, Secretariat of the Department of Canadian Heritage to Chair Thompson and Vice Chair Johnstone in response to the board's letter to the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau regarding gambling advertisements, which has been forwarded to the Minister of Canadian Heritage, Pascali Saint-Onge. Are there any communications or announcements regarding public education tonight? Trustee Long, you have an announcement? Muted, Trustee Long.
Through the chair. Tomorrow morning in one of my 3 schools under my constituency umbrella, the Kiwanis Music Festival is visiting Walkerton District School. There'll be some bands playing there. I believe it's tomorrow morning in Walkerton at the K-12 school.
Excellent. Any other announcements? Are there any out-of-district meetings, conferences, or conventions to share? Go ahead.
I just want to say I went to Western Regionals on Saturday to come see, and it was awesome. Our comments as trustees are welcome and fruitful and engaging, and it's just a wonderful place to be. Thank you.
Excellent. The calendar of events has been provided for your information, and it is getting
My hands
shorter.
up.
Go
My
ahead,
hands up.
Trustee Long.
Great to see public gallery here today. Be nice to know what led you to come and join us. Thanks so much. The public does know we exist. And then finally, conferences or whatever Jane invited us to mention. End of the month, I'm off to the OPSPA Labor Symposium. Looking forward to that. Also wanted to go to something near and dear to my heart, the Indigenous conference, but I was told that can't go in July because there's no more PD money left. Maybe we're spending it on illegals or something. Who knows? Anyways, yeah, thank you. Some good things
Trustee
tonight.
Long, we get that.
We're making progress.
Our expense report every 3 months. I would like to mover and a seconder that the Blue Water District School Board adjourn at 9:18. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Craig, second, Trustee Johnstone. I wish everyone a safe drive home.